Well, good day to you. It is June the 10th. And I know you're going to have a great day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing. I want to thank you and welcome you to Search for Signs. And I know I have a lot of new people here, but I also have some people who have listened to these videos before. But if you are totally new, or even if you've listened to these videos before, and you want to know more about this information, read more about them. Read more about Maitreya. Read more about the priorities of Maitreya. And I've included links in the description portion of every one of these videos that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. So hopefully you'll take the extra step and you'll do it. It's free. It's there for you whenever you want to look into it. Now, if you want to join the discussion, that's free too. You can post comments. You can post your questions in the comments section. Email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. I've even had a few people from time to time reach out to me through Facebook Messenger. You can get your questions to me that way. But I want to personally give a shout out and thank those people who have commented and asked questions. Username 0034, Vanessa Rivera, Ricardo Peswasali, my man Ray, James Morin, and then I had two emails, one from Andrew and one from Joey. Now I actually, I started this video just looking at the three questions that I had, one from James, one from Andrew, and one from Joey. But I have a fourth question from username 0034. Now, I would love to be able to answer all four questions in this one video and just knock it out, but I'm going to have to split up the questions. So James got his question to me first. I'm going to focus on what he had to say because actually everybody had something to really ask. So I want to take the time to really answer it in full. So rather than feeling rushed or going too lengthy, let me just focus on James's first, and then I'll answer your others, the other three in the next video, or split those videos up if I have to. But anyway, now James's question is actually a follow-up question to his previous one, where I did a video. The last video I did was my trying to answer his questions, and it had to do with Maitreya's interview. Why are people not recognizing Maitreya on TV? That's what it had to do with. And I did my best to answer it, and the best way that I always try to answer it, and it comes from people who are either very sincere in asking me that question, to those people who are trying to trigger me emotionally by answering me. Why is anybody seeing Maitreya on TV? Nothing's happening. Why? I always throw it out, real quick before I get to his follow-up question. I always throw it out like this. There are, I think, three possibilities. One is Ben was delusional, and the whole thing was made up. He perhaps believed it or didn't or whatever, and people such as myself believed him and wasted a large part of their life following a ghost. Second cousin to Harvey the Rabbit, as they say. There was no truth to anything that he said. That's a possibility. I don't believe it to be true, but that's for you to think for yourself. What do you believe? The other possibility, which I don't think is very likely, but let's just throw it out there too, is Ben was in communication with one of these masters in the way that he was. Maitreya worked through him in that way. He just happened to get this one thing wrong. And Maitreya hasn't given an interview yet. And that's the reason why nobody's seen him on TV yet. Could happen, right? And then the third is, I think the most likely, is that perhaps he is on TV. Yes, the changes haven't been taking place, and it's been 13 years, but perhaps the expectation is the reason why it's frustrating, And so, because perhaps my expectation, and James, because you wrote the question in, your expectation and others who have asked that same question, and probably those people who haven't asked that question, as a comment, but thought it for themselves, is just that. It was just expectation. It was just it was a fantastical expectation that after eons upon eons upon eons of the masters living away from humanity, working indirectly through their disciples to move things along, after all this time of being forgotten, coming back into the everyday world, into a world that's very divided, a world that's very complex and complicated, to say the least, with a lot of issues that we have to work on, can't agree on the slightest little thing, see life totally separate, that perhaps Maitreya speaking on TV in a very subdued way to wake the hearts of humanity without scaring everybody off, the time frame that I was thinking was perhaps a little unrealistic. More than likely. That's what I'm thinking. So that's what I said. So what was his follow-up question? So his follow-up question was, try to help the world in some way. What are you doing to help the world, friend? Thank you for answering me. My point was this: no one is responding to the ideas he is putting out there. I couldn't care less if he was recognized as a teacher or not. His ideas of sharing to save the starving, so we don't destroy the world, food, healthcare, education, and housing as human rights. No one is responding and giving this man a following. He was supposedly giving TV interviews all over the world. You figure by now his ideas would have gotten at least some traction, and maybe he would have at least a small following. I believe in what he advocates, but no one else does. The apathy is what is depressing. Final thing, what teachings what teachings of his have you put into effect in your life that have helped you? How have they helped you? I am jealous you met him, to be honest. Why you and not me? I try to work on detachment, sincerity, and honesty. I try to tell myself to be detached during the day. It does help a little, but not much. I tell myself to be sincere. The energy lightens me up a little for a few moments, but it doesn't last. I can't sustain a state of being like that for very long. Just being honest. Honestly, I heard Christ was here late 90s. It's the only thing that gives me hope. I don't want the planet to die in nuclear war. Nobody does. Him being here and the masters is the only thing that gives me hope. I told people I know about him. They don't believe it, of course. Why tell the public if they will 9 times out of 10, they won't believe it? What good will it do? I stopped telling people in public because I'm afraid of strangers. Don't put me down for this. I'm just being honest. Some people are okay with it. Some are hostile. I need others to work with, but I'm alone and demoralized. It's hard not to be. I will continue to look for him and wait and pray for patience. Well, thank you very much for that. And I'm going to try to answer and address your questions. And in no way will I ever put you down for this because, truth be told, James, I for the most part, I've been where you are, for sure. So now, I will say this. So I'll get back to the helping the world here in a second. He said, no one is responding to his ideas and putting him out there. I couldn't care less if he was recognized as the teacher or not. First and foremost, I think that the recognition of Maitreya on TV and people responding to his ideas are really one and the same. I don't think that you really could be responsive to his ideas I think you could be responsive to his ideas and not recognize him as the world teacher for sure, like you're saying. But I don't think you could recognize him as the world teacher with not already wanting for the world what he's wanting. You know what I mean? I just don't think there's any way you could really do it. And so, in a way, they're kind of one and the same in my mind. I always say don't focus on Maitreya, the person, right? Focus on his ideas, and that's true. But, it is as much about recognizing him within the hearts of the person as it is about the ideas. But I get where you're coming from, for sure. Okay, so, and not to belabor that point. But anyway, but I don't think it's true to say that no one is responding. Now, perhaps it might seem like, nobody's responding. I'm sure I've had that thought from time to time, especially watching the news. It can get pretty, depressing to watch. But, the reason why I said try to help the world in some way, if you're not helping the world, try to help the world in some way, I think is how I put it, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not just for you, it's for me and everybody else. Because, I've wasted years of my life not doing anything. And the times that I was not doing anything, I was depressed. Because if you have that longing for peace like you do have, that longing to help in some way, and you don't do it, it starts to gnaw at you, and gnaw at you, and gnaw at you. And you can put it aside and ignore it, but it keeps gnawing at you. And according to Ben, that's the soul. That's the soul of the person prodding them, to do it. And if you don't do anything with it, you can become very depressed, and in extreme cases, suicidal even. And so he always recommended, when you're ever depressed, he goes 99.9 times out of 10, or out of 100, when you're, I'm sorry, 99.9 times out of 10, that makes a lot of sense. 99.9 times out of 100, if you're depressed, it is because you're not serving. That's what he said. So he always encouraged everybody to serve in some way. It's for each and every one of us to find what is true for us to do, you know. If you live a life of joy and, you know, you see the unity in things, well, you're already serving in that way. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, you're serving in that way. And it's not so much about a doing as much as it is about a being aspect of it. But when you are seeing life as one, you can't help but do something, whatever it is, whether it's painting, music, you know, teaching, you know, inventing something, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, but it's for each and every one of us to find that service to do, especially somebody like yourself who wants peace, who wants to see the end of hunger and those kind of things. And I'm not saying anything about you personally, I'm just saying this in general, right? But it is uplifting when you start to forget about yourself. You know, not to go into the whole experience, but there was a person that I saw at work who was one of Maitreya's associates, who was following me around my job, asking me all sorts of random questions about what I do and why I do it and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time, until they asked me this one question. They said, why are you so happy doing this job that most people wouldn't even want? Because my job's not the greatest shakes. It pays for the things, and I do pretty well, and I enjoy it. But he goes, why are you so happy here? And I said, you know, it's because, you know, being in customer service like I am, I have to focus on the customer. I forget about myself. And I used to train new assistants coming in, and I have to focus on their training, and I forget about myself. And then when I paint, and trying to be creative, you know, I forget about myself, and I'm just engrossed in the painting. And I said to this guy, I said, when I find myself focused on other people or creativity focused on the painting or whatever, I forget about myself, and it brings me joy. And he looks at me and he goes, that is it exactly. So that, you know, something you can take, I guess. But the masters, the reason why they know nothing but joy is because they don't see themselves as separate. They see themselves only as one. Somebody asked Sai Baba one time, James, I don't know if you've ever heard this story. He said to Sai Baba, he said, I want peace. And he goes, get rid of I, get rid of want, and you'll have peace. So anyway, but I'm only saying these things based on what you're saying, you know, and like I said, I've been there before. I know what you're coming from. To see the world through the eyes of the news media today is depressing, for sure. You have to look, you have to dig and scrape at the bottom of it to find any kind of hope in what they're talking about, because they are selling bad news, because that's what keeps people glued to the television or glued to their tablet or their phone, because you want more bad news. We're masochists to a greater or lesser extent. We're all masochists looking for pain. And that's what keeps us enthralled, you know? But Maitreya did say to me one time, he goes, I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do. So I'm saying this for, you know, personally for me, this is something that he said that's helped me, but it's also helped me in terms of the way that I've seen the world and seen humanity. So, and see the problems that we're going through and stuff, is he was saying it when Maitreya said it to me, he was saying it to a person who was very critical, but who was also wanting to stop being critical, and used to tell himself, I should be less critical, just like you tell yourself you want to be detached and sincere and have honesty of mind in that same way, right? And it didn't work, you know, because I was still critical. And I tried and I tried and I tried. And then he told me this one time when I saw him at a peace rally. I was walking to my car, and he was talking to me about a bunch of stuff, and then he stopped right in the middle, interrupted himself, and he goes, "I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do." And this was just a few years before this was just a few months before he did his first interview, but so it's just been a few years since he said this to me. And at first I didn't really put it on me. I was thinking more about him. He doesn't judge, because that's the way he said it. He goes, "I never judge anyone on whether they're good." He didn't say, "Gary, you never judge anyone." He was saying it about him, right? But I started to apply it to myself. And I started to notice, let me just see if I can notice one good thing about this person that's just driving me up the wall. It was a coworker. And I tried it. And I was like, he's not so bad. I mean, he's doing this. But yeah, he also does X, Y, Z, and that drives me crazy. And so I was thinking to myself, right? And I said, yeah, but he's also doing that. Yeah, but he's also blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of how the conversation went. But it changed my relationship with this young fellow. And somebody else came to me with the same criticism that I had been having with him. And I actually defended him. I said, well, he's doing this. Yeah, but and she said the same thing to me that I was kind of thinking of, well, he's, doing this and that and the other, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, but he's also blah, 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 blah. I started to defend this man that I was actually just as critical about. And I was like, well, let me see if I can do it with this person. And I started doing it with them. And I was like, ooh, wait, there's one thing in there. I can see it. Oh, that's it. And so I'm saying all this to say, when you get down about humanity, look at humanity in that same way. Try to find one good thing that we're doing. And it can give you a little bit of peace about things, right? And the one thing that I thought about, and I started doing this with humanity as a whole, James, and it kind of gave me some solace and a little bit of hope, is I thought about Maitreya. I believe he is the Christ, the one awaited by all the world's religions, but he's also a Christ from the ageless wisdom, from the esoteric perspective, that his cells, literally embody the love nature of God. Now that's incredible if you understand what that really means and believe it, right, to be true. It's incredible. But it's also remarkable the fact that he's out of our evolution. He's from our own humanity. He did not come from another planet or another solar system. He's one of us. And then you look at some of these other people like Krishnamurti and what he's done, and Jesus, and Helena Blavatsky, and Martin Luther King, and some of these others, and you're like, they're part of our humanity. It kind of made me feel like I was rubbing elbows with some greatness here. Even some of the lower aspects of humanity, you know what I mean? Like, wow, maybe they could be doing that one day too. Guess what? Maitreya has been in every situation that all of us are in now. He's been in that situation without exception, he said. So who knows who's going to be a Christ, I started thinking like this. I was like, this is incredible. This person who's homeless, has no teeth, on drugs, meth, everything. Maitreya has been right there, right in that spot. And yet look where he is now. Holy shit is what I said to myself. And it gives me a lot of hope about humanity, to be honest. Do we still have problems? Do we still have the divisions? Are we still messing up the environment? Absolutely. But Maitreya also says, all will be well. All manner of things will be well. We have to go through this stage so we never come back here again. But the hope for humanity, James, is humanity. It's not, the masters are only here to help. We will have to do it. Centuries from now, millennia from now, we will look back and say, we created peace on earth. We started to manifest love on this planet. We traveled to the stars to see life on other universes and so forth, like the Master said. We came together as a humanity. We saved our environment. We did it. But under the inspiration and guidance of Maitreya and these Masters. They're not going to do it. They're going to inspire and help us to do it. We are the hope for humanity. Maitreya even said, keep your eyes on the prize, and the prize is humanity, James. So don't lose hope in humanity. You know, yes, you're worried that we're going to destroy ourselves. So am I. But, you know, I'm also reminded of a song from the 80s. It ain't over till it's over. It's not. We're still here. There's still time. And according to Maitreya, everything's going to be fine. All evidence to the contrary, as Ben's master said, we will get through this. And I do think that the future generations will look back at this generation and say that we were the generation that had within our hands the future of all of humanity and all of life on planet Earth. We have it in our hands to go either way. Do we destroy life on this planet? Or do we try the principle of sharing and give us a future? We have that choice. It's a tremendous power that this generation has. But here's the other thing, James. It is a cosmic law, according to the masters, that every generation has the ability, the knowledge, the experience, and the wherewithal to handle any situation that comes their way, and the problems, and to face the problems that we face and overcome them. Every generation's been able to do it. As dark and as seeming as the fate had been at the time, that we got through it. We got through it again, didn't we? We got through it again, didn't we? And at this generation, we have the ability to destroy ourselves. We have the ability to save ourselves. That's the choice that we have, right? And you say no one is responding. You're responding to Maitreya's priorities in some way. You know, and the more videos I put up, the more people comment. And James, these are people that I've never met in my life. I will never see again. I'll never see them in my own life. I'll never meet with them. But yet, they're coming out of the woodwork. And they're all saying the same thing. They want peace. And then you'll have a random few of, you know, you're full of garbage, Gary. But, you know, I know this message is hitting them too. Every single person that's come to me about an ideological difference that they have with this, and they think the worst of it and me and everything. When I pin them down about peace, when I pin them down about the end of hunger, they don't really have a lot to say in defense or in contrary to that, because there's nothing they can say, right? And so they usually don't say anything, and they go off for a few months and then they come back. But anyway, you are the hope for humanity. Vanessa Rivera, who's commented too in reference to what you were saying, is the hope for humanity. My man Ray Ray is the hope for humanity. Andrew Aloha, who sent me an email, is of hope for humanity. You know, everyone who is thinking about this information in some way is the hope for humanity, for sure, without exception. You might not know it, you might not see it, you might be, there's nobody around, but there is. And if you also look in the news, you'll see people who are starting to respond who are starting to talk about this in a way. They don't get a lot of coverage, they don't get a lot of focus, but then you also see these groups of people, more and more and more groups of people coming together to fight against injustice, for peace, especially for the environment, and it's not stopping. It's more and more and more people in parts of the world that they were never doing that before. So Maitreya said that within the hearts of every single humanity is the longing for peace and unity, but he did not say that within the forefront of everyone's mind is the longing for peace and unity. He never said that, right? The heart has to wake up first to this, and then the mind will follow. It's not the other way around. And so, you know, but it's there, and more, little bit by little bit, people are starting to awaken to it, awaken to it, awaken to it, awaken to it. You can see it if you just look at it. But hopefully that answers your question, you know, helps you with a little bit. Now, the other thing too about speaking about this information to other people, you know, and what good does it do and everything like that. couple things. Benjamin Creme said that the only thing is that people just need to, it helps them just to know who Maitreya is, or even see a picture of Maitreya. They don't even have to know anything about it or believe it. And that will allow Maitreya to enter their life without infringing their free will. So just telling somebody about it is all you got to do. In fact, if you ever listen to one of Benjamin Creme's lectures, he says it at the beginning of every one of his lectures. He said he had the easiest job because he never had to try to convince anybody of anything. He just had to tell you about it. He had to overcome his fear that how people would react to what he was saying, and he just had to tell you. And then you could do with it whatever you did with it. If you didn't do anything with it, that was on you. So, he wasn't a salesman trying to convince people, or a preacher or a pastor trying to convince people. You have to do that. And then he also said, toward the tail end of his introduction, and this was something that really stuck with me. He always said, he goes, even if you don't believe anything that he said after his lecture, if you were just left with just a little bit more hope for the future, he would be completely satisfied. We also, I told you about, I was just talking about what we have in humanity's hands, right? The future for humanity is in the hands of humanity. But within each of us what we have in our hands too is we can either spread fear or we can spread joy. And when you spread fear, you don't know how far out it goes and how much harm it does before it comes back to you. But yet at the same time, you also have, on the other hand, you have a choice too. And this is everybody, James. I'm not just pointing you out, right? Have within your hands the opportunity to share joy too and hope. And that goes far out. You don't know how when by sharing hope with people and telling them that there's hope, that we're not going to destroy ourselves. So many people are scared and uncertain of the future economically, politically, geopolitically, and all that kind of stuff, right? Ecologically, everything. Sometimes just telling somebody, it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this, is enough for somebody to go, oh, even if they don't necessarily agree with you right then, or they might not even ask you why you'd say that, it might just be enough for them. And Ben's master said, if spreading hope and joy how did he put it? I'm paraphrasing now, unfortunately. So he said something to the effect of, you'll do more to help humanity, your brothers and your sisters, than you could possibly imagine by just doing that. So, and then you also wanted to know something else that, you wanted to know what Maitreya said to me that's helped me. The one thing that he said, I'll leave you with this, James. He goes, and everybody, he goes, you're going to see me on TV real soon, and we're going to change the world together. I love you guys. Take care. It was so great to put up another video. I can't wait to do another one in the future. You guys take care. Have a great day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.